Now from the news team that's covering the Carolinas, this is Channel 9 Eyewitness News at 6.
Rae Carruth, the former Carolina Panther, days from freedom after conspiring to kill his pregnant girlfriend and unborn son.
Rae, this is Erica Bryant with Channel 9.
He's opening up in an interview that you'll see only on Channel 9.
I just wanted him to see his father face to face.
New at 6, what Carruth told me he hopes for one day for the son who survived.
I wanted him to know that I do want to be there, that I do love him.
Carruth is set to be released in 4 days, and I got a phone call from him to talk about what's next. I'm Erica Bryant.
And I'm Paul Boyd. The former NFL star has spent more than 18 years in prison for a plot to murder his then pregnant girlfriend, Sharika Adams, and their unborn son.
Adams died a month after that shooting, but her son, Chancellor Lee, lived. Carruth spoke to me about Chancellor, what he wants to say to him, and what he hopes for his life.
Chancellor Lee Adams will be 19 years old next month. Born with cerebral palsy because of the shooting that killed his mother, he struggles every day, but still is almost always smiling. His father hasn't seen Chancellor since he was very young, but Rae Carruth told me in a phone interview from prison that he wants that to change.
Whatever it took for me to be a part of Chancellor's life to make things right with him, I was and still am willing to do. He will never have his mother in his life. Right or wrong, he still has the opportunity to have me in his life.
Chancellor has been raised by Sandra Adams, his maternal grandmother. In the past, she's told me that she is open with her grandson, but has never gone into detail with him about Carruth's crime.
I tell Chancellor that his father did a terrible thing, and he's away now.
Now, Carruth says he hopes they can come together.
I've apologized to Miss Adams for the loss of her daughter and taking responsibility for what happened. I don't want to harm Miss Adams. I guess, honestly, I just want to truly be forgiven. I'd love to have the opportunity to make things right with her and Chancellor.
You said that you wanted to contribute to Chancellor Lee's life. Does that also mean financially?
Absolutely. Whatever I can do for my son, I will. I don't feel like the burden should be Miss Adams alone, or even the kind individuals who have aided her and assisted her in helping care for my son. That's still my responsibility. For as long as I'm alive, it's my responsibility to help take care of my son, whether I'm allowed to have a relationship or not.
As tens of millions of Americans watched football this weekend, it was hard to escape that headline, that heartbreak in Kansas City. And on this Sunday, a team took a moment to remember a family in extraordinary pain. Javon Belcher was a linebacker for the Kansas City Chiefs, a successful athlete who got there on his own. He wasn't drafted, recently celebrating his first child, a baby girl. But then this weekend, tragedy. Belcher murdering his girlfriend and then killing himself at the stadium in front of his coach and his general manager. Today, sorrow on the field, Belcher's teammates leading fans in that moment of silence, and this evening, new and difficult questions, some of them for the coach. Were there any signs this was coming? ABC's John Schriffen is in Kansas City tonight.
With heavy hearts, Chiefs players took the field just one day after teammate Javon Belcher killed his girlfriend before taking his own life outside the stadium.
It was tough. You miss him, you know. He's a great guy, great teammate. We loved his family. And like I said, my heart goes out to them. Our prayers are with them.
As part of the pregame ceremonies, the Chiefs observed a moment of silence for the victims of domestic abuse. And after running back Peyton Hillis scored the game's first touchdown, he ran over to head coach Romeo Crennel to give him a hug. Police say early Saturday morning, Belcher shot and killed his 22-year-old girlfriend, Cassandra Perkins, the mother of his 3-month-old daughter, at their home. He then got in his car, drove to the team's practice facility outside Arrowhead Stadium, where authorities say he thanked coaches for believing in him. Moments later, he walked away, shooting himself in the head, as Crennel and the team's general manager looked on in horror. Police are still trying to figure out just what caused Belcher to snap. He and his girlfriend were reportedly arguing after she returned late from a concert.
It was an individual that that did something that he snapped, and that I don't understand, and I probably never will.
It's the latest in a string of NFL player suicides. Earlier this year, former Atlanta Falcons safety Ray Easterling took his life with a gun. So did Tennessee Titans wide receiver O.J. Murdoch. And in May, NFL legend Junior Seau died after shooting himself in the chest. The family is having his brain studied. They want to know if the suicide was associated to a history of concussion-related injuries. But the Chiefs management says Belcher had no history of head injuries.
He is a player that's not had a long concussion history.
With Belcher's jersey still hanging in his locker, his teammates say he will not be forgotten. And the team announced it will start a foundation for Belcher's 3-month-old daughter left behind. As for what happened out here on the field, well, the Chiefs actually played their best game of the season, beating the Carolina Panthers, earning just their second win of the year. David?
Coming together in the wake of it all, John, thanks to you.
Thank you, Juan. Prosecutors say a notorious Orange County murder was the result of a deadly love triangle. Tonight, a former NFL player convicted in the crime is speaking out for the first time since the jury said guilty. CBS 2 Orange County reporter Stacey Butler has a story you won't see anywhere else.
An innocent family man was murdered in his own home, this home, and now it's our home.
Kathleen and Mary O'Flynn know what it's like to grow up in the house that made headlines.
Bill McLaughlin's body ended up right here in the kitchen, middle of the kitchen.
2 years after Balboa Cove's millionaire 55-year-old Bill McLaughlin was shot to death inside his own home, the O'Flynns moved in.
There's an eerie, feeling around here.
McLaughlin's live-in mistress, Nanette Johnston, and her ex-NFL boyfriend, Eric Naposki, say prosecutors killed McLaughlin for his money. That was 17 years ago. Now, for the first time, the ex-linebacker breaks his silence.
I guarantee you, looking straight in the face, Troy, Eric Naposki did not murder Bill McLaughlin, any way you slice it.
As Naposki awaits sentencing for first-degree murder, he spoke from the Orange County Jail, pointing the finger at Johnston.
Her gift is the manipulation of men.
Prosecutors say the case against Naposki and Johnston is clear. Johnston, they say, gave him her house key, and he had a duplicate made at this Ace Hardware, then used it to enter. And prosecutors allege Johnston provided Naposki with a map of the interior of the home. He knew exactly where to find the back door. Johnston, now 45, a Ladera Ranch soccer mom, is set to stand trial next month. This homeowner says every time she sets foot in her kitchen, a former crime scene, she's convinced the bombshell knew exactly what she was doing.
She advertised in a magazine. She was supposedly on a lounge, and she was saying, if you take care of me, I'll take care of you. And that's how Mr. McLaughlin met her.
Investigators say that Johnston and Naposki were always considered suspects, but they couldn't recover the gun and link them to the crime. 3 years ago, the Orange County District Attorney's Office reopened the case and looked at old evidence. If convicted, Johnston faces life in prison. We're live tonight at the Newport Harbor. Stacey Butler, CBS 2 News.
And you can watch the full Deadly Love Triangle story this Saturday at 10 o'clock right here on CBS 2.
Are you done? Well, if Your Honor keeps interrupting me, then of course I'm done.
Lawyers for Aaron Hernandez cry foul, saying the judge treats them unfairly.
And I think it's unfair. It violates the due process clause.
That heated exchange as they tried to keep this man from taking the stand. Jeff London was there the night of the double murder in Boston's South End.
I heard what sounded like gunshots.
Do you recall how many gunshots?
No.
Prosecutors say a paranoid Hernandez killed 2 men after a spilled drink at Cure Lounge. The club's promoter says the former Patriot was a club VIP who sometimes caused trouble, once slapping another club promoter, then Hernandez saying this.
You're a fed, you're a snitch, get away from me.
Lawyers say Hernandez was upset after the club leaked info about celebrities to TMZ.
If the Patriots think that you're snitching on them, they're not going to want to come to you anymore, right?
Objection. Aaron Hernandez was all smiles in court as prosecutors called his friends to the stand. NFL player Deontay Thompson showed solidarity with his friend. Oscar Hernandez helped crack a smile.
Can you just point him out and describe an article of clothing that he's wearing?
purple shirt, I guess, lavender.
The record may reflect the witness identified the defendant.
Now, 3 of Aaron Hernandez's friends took the stand today. Each of them talked about the night before he allegedly shot someone in Florida. That victim, Alexander Bradley, is the key witness in this double murder case here in Boston. Live in Boston, Sean Chabot, WCVB News Center 5.
A notorious killer already locked up for life is now on the hook for 4 more Northwest murders.
You may remember the name Randall. Woodfield's killing spree terrified people up and down the West Coast, all along I-5. He's called the I-5 killer. It is the stuff of Hollywood movies and novels. Our local 6 reporter Sally Showman spoke with famed author Ann Rule this afternoon. Now, Sally Ann wrote a book about Woodfield back in the 1980s.
She did, and that book was called The I-5 Killer because Woodfield's victims spanned the I-5 corridor from Washington all the way down to California. And today, Rule told me she's not surprised that he's now linked to 4 additional murders. In fact, she wrote about these victims in her book. As of today, detectives have definitively linked Randy Woodfield to 7 murders, but they suspect the I-5 killer is responsible for as many as 24 more.
It's not a huge surprise, but it's gratifying. I don't think they can give him any more time than he already has, but he's responsible for probably more murders than we realize.
It was the details of his crimes that interested crime writer Ann Rule back in the early 80s. She said he jumped on and off I-5 in his gold Volkswagen Bug, sexually assaulting women and killing them, all the while wearing disguises.
Often he put tape over the bridge of his nose, which really hides what people look like.
While serving a life sentence, Woodfield read Rule's book about him. He sued her unsuccessfully for libel and even made threats against her.
There were 2 very naive young women in Salem who started visiting him, and he told them that he'd never killed anybody, but if he started, he would start with me. So I keep track of where he is, and I don't think he's going anywhere soon.
It's been almost 30 years since she wrote the book, but Rule says she'll never forget Woodfield and his horrific crimes.
Randy hasn't had quite as much publicity as some of the other serial killers. He may turn out to be one of the most prolific serial killers that we have ever known.
Now, prosecutors have decided not to press charges against Woodfield in these 4 additional murders because he's already serving a life sentence. If he is ever eligible for parole, Multnomah County's district attorney says he will reconsider that decision. Reporting for you live along I-5, Sally Showman, KOIN Local.